When I was in high school, I graduated in 1966. So basically, the war was, heating up pretty good at that point. And basically, you had like three choices. Either you got drafted, or you joined, or you went to college, And that's about as much as I knew about what was happening in Vietnam, was that I was faced with that I might have to be involved with that at some point in my near future, And so anyhow, the summer after high school, most of my friends right away went into the military, and I had friends being shot within the first year, wounded and shot, but my folks thought I was college material, little did they know. But so I got deferred to a couple of years. I went to junior college, and I was really troubled during that time because my friends were going and serving. I really felt, that JFK quote, "It's not what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And of course the John Wayne thing and everything. And I was raised in that kind of an era. But so I felt somewhat that I should be doing this myself. And at the same time, I was just trying to satisfy my folks going to school, and I really wasn't a very good student. But anyhow, I eventually flunked out of that and lost my deferment, and then I got drafted. In some ways, I was relieved to have that decision made for me. I no longer had to think about it. So like I say, I wasn't political in any way, shape, or form. I had no understanding really. I just knew that we were in this thing, and my friends. So anyhow, so then I got drafted, and I pretty much my life was kind of on a downward trajectory. I was pretty heavy into drugs and alcohol and things at that point in my life, and so and I just figured that that now that I'm involved, my fate will probably be bound in Vietnam. I'll probably get involved with that and get messed up, and that'll be the end of it, And I didn't really care much at that point. I'll be honest. So then, but as you got in the military, you learned that the guys that were the MOS you didn't want was 11B10, which were the grunts, and I figured that would probably be my fate. But anyhow, I went through in basic training. I don't want to go through my whole military, but anyhow, basic training. That was my first real experience being out of Minnesota. It was all people from Minnesota that I got basic training, and about 3 or 4 weeks into it, I got in basic training. We were doing the pivot kick, and you pick your leg up and you swing around, and I dislocated my kneecap, went to the other side of my leg, and so I had to go in a hospital. Well, and there I was for the first time. I was in a hospital with vets that were home that were wounded, So I started learning a little bit about that, and then I got recycled, and I had to watch my company graduate, and then I had to go through the whole thing all over again. And then I had a whole nother experience that was kind of the rejects that got recycled, So it was my first real experience being around black people and that whole thing. But anyhow, and then I got my orders to go from there to Fort Polk, Louisiana, the 11C10, which is like one echelon above 11B. It was just basically 81 mortars that I was trained on. And so anyhow, and I just, I came home on leave, and I figured that I'd be going and humping that base plate on my back and humping that thing, and I figured I'd probably get blown away. But anyhow, that's kind of where I went. And as the experience unfolded, it didn't go like that, And there was my first 3 months, there was a lot of fighting and air, fire missions and stuff like that. But then Nixon pulled the colors. The company I was with, the 82nd Airborne, was the first part of Nixon's withdrawal. So 3 months there, then we got transferred. And at that point, I would have been, probably would have been put on as a grunt. When they reassigned us, there was 3 of us that went together and got reassigned together, and they kept 2 of us together. But anyhow, we said, hey, listen, we've been working on the mortars, and so how about if we stick with that? And they stuck with that, And I think that was really a turning point in and as it turned out, once I got there, I could see the guys that were fighting the war. You could see, you kind of knew who was getting beat up and who wasn't. And in the Army, they have a thing called a combat infantry badge. And I said, I want to get me that combat infantry badge. That's what I thought. But anyhow, as it turned out, I never had that type of combat experience, and I came home feeling pretty, I went with thinking that I was going to get wasted, and then I came back and I'm still alive. And we had people, people got killed at a fire base that I was at, and so you kind of come back with that feeling like a failure, because I didn't experience the kind of combat. I didn't get the combat infantry badge, And of course, everybody wants to know your story. The first thing they ask you did you have combat? Did you see combat? You know, or did you kill anybody? That's kind of the first two questions that people want to know. So I had to carry that question throughout my life and deal with that as best I can. And anyhow, so that was part of what nagged on me from the get-go, and I didn't really want to talk about it much. But then as, you know, and somewhat that survival guilt, you know, how come those guys got killed and how come I didn't, and, you know, and so anyhow, so then in about 78, I went through recovery from alcoholism. And as a result of that was a transformative experience for me, and I started, you know, becoming like a truth seeker. And I started learning. First I made peace inside of myself. I was totally at war, angry inside of myself. And so the beginnings of the peace deal for me was started on the inside. And then eventually it just was a natural flow. And so I started getting involved with anti-war work, and, you know, got involved with vets and Vets for Peace and stuff, and started learning the truth, you know, about why we were there and all of that. And so why I'm here and why I'm concerned about this is I think, you know, like what I've heard is Novak wants to kind of put it on, or he wants to put it on the middle of the road, and that there's not really truth, and we made a good faith effort in Vietnam, you know, and I don't believe that we made a good. I mean, from the get-go, we knew what we were doing. It wasn't an accident. It was something we just fell into, you know. From 45 on, you know, we took the French back and we supported the French, and then we just basically took up when they left off, and it's been very intentional. So, you know, my purpose for being here is that the truth be told. It's not because of my war story, you know. It's because what I've learned from war is that it's folly, and it's terribly destructive. And we, you know, how many thousands died just in the year that I was there, you know, the Vietnamese and fellow soldiers and, you know, civilians. It just, you know, for what, you know, I mean, for what? I mean, they're our biggest trading partner, you know, fighting communism, you know, and it just, but anyhow, we've gone from the Vietnam War to perpetual war now, and I feel if there was a reason for my life being saved at all, is to do what I can do to stop this shit from happening, you know. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm coming to observe this, so that, you know, in some way, shape, or form, that we can address and make sure that this is, to me, it's like a golden opportunity to, and I think that the real healing for myself isn't going to happen until you get the truth. I mean, you got to go to the truth. You got to go to the bottom of it to get to that before you can. I think you can't stand in the middle of the field and heal from it. You know, and there's lots and lots of folks that think that their son or whatever died and doing the right thing, and I think that they deserve to know, you know. But anyhow, if that makes sense, that's kind of my MOS or whatever. And